Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another 10-minute turn video from Napoleonic PC Wargamers using JTS Leipzig to have a look at Napoleonic warfare in general and have a look at how the game plays and how it utilises the units and what you can and can't do. We're going to have a look now at Cavalry, probably everybody's favourite unit, possibly a misunderstood unit and how you can use them. Certainly different to the American Civil War, different to wars before. They were sort of unique to a certain extent. So what we can do is have a look at different types, and again there is hundreds and hundreds of different units within the various armies, but the 4 or 5 basic types of cavalry we have do have certain different capabilities. First thing we have a look at then are lances. Polish lances probably being the most famous, armed with a long lance, good for ranged charges if you like, but not very good close up. Very good against infantry, as long as they're not in square. Next type then are our generic or undefined, or I would like to say light cavalry. In this case we've got some guard chasseurs. These guys were normally used for scouting, for potentially in the vanguard, maybe not fighting so much, and for foraging and things like that. They do have certain combat bonuses, they can be quite effective. However, what we need for fighting infantry and charging are our heavy guys. These guys, Empress Dragoons, definitely my favourite cavalry unit, tied maybe between the Scots Greys. But these heavy troops, or big heavy horses, big heavy men, they are, for want of a better word or an analogy, they're your tanks in the battlefield. Not the best way to think of them as tanks, but they do pack a punch if you use them right. We don't just charge around the battlefield with our cavalry from the start, trying to get some damage. The horses will blow, and in real life, it was very rare that there was more than 1, possibly 2 charges on a day by a single cavalry unit, especially the heavies. It would take time for them to reorganise, to regroup behind the lines and to recover so they could go again. Another type is Dragoons, and Dragoons are mounted infantry with armed with a small carbine, and what we can do, their unique feature if you like, is by selecting them and come up here to the change line column formation, press that button. If I was on the French side it would help. Press that button and we get dismounted units. And these guys, they are dismounted Dragoons now on foot, and they basically act the same as any line formation in infantry. They can't deploy any skirmishers, and they can't go into square. However, they're dismounted. We assume that their horses are back here somewhere, we just can't see it. And for all intents and purposes, they act as infantry. Another word of note is that any time you are using artillery, especially en masse, always have some horse artillery close by with them. It's very rare that that cavalry would just go off on their own en masse. You need to be following up in a combined armed effort with infantry and certainly horse artillery. That's why horse artillery came about, to keep up with the horses. All the riders, all the guns are and troopers, and everybody each has their own horse, so they're very mobile and they get into the field pretty quick. And don't forget, we've got that lovely feature of horse artillery that we can fire, unlimber and fire on the same turn. There we go. Now, in this order of battle that I'm using at the moment, the size of the regiments and the units we're using isn't too bad. It's quite realistic. Other games such as Waterloo, where you've got whole regiments of horses, is potentially not as realistic. Well, it isn't as realistic. Similar to infantry regiments, who would break down into battalions, and that one battalion would go with a certain division and a second battalion would go with another one, just to stop familiarity if you like. We can break down our cavalry into squadrons as well. So to do that, we can double click on this unit, let's say, and press the skirmisher squadron button, and it will break down that unit into squadrons. So now we've got 2 squadrons under the same under the same leader. However, we've now got 2 different squadrons. Another type of cavalry that we haven't covered is a Cossack unit. And Cossacks are unique to the Russians and sort of the Eastern armies. The Prussians have got some as well, and they tend to be quite large numbers, but they're not the most effective troops. They're armed with the lance, and they do have a certain attack bonus if you were to charge. Defensive wise, if we were to defend against this cavalry, then we'd like to be in square. That's our go-to formation, gives us the best protection against square, and chances are it was very rare that cavalry would ever break a square. It wasn't unknown, however it was very rare and gives you the best defense. If I was to charge this square here with these Polish lancers, they're quality A, they're good against infantry. To do a charge, or to commence a charge, I've got to come up to this sort of sword up here, press to change charging, and now it says this unit is charging. I can only charge or now move in the direction that I'm actually facing. So if I wanted to charge some infantry up on this road here with these Polish lancers that are facing sort of towards the top right of the screen, I couldn't actually do it. I couldn't physically change direction. The other thing that we can't do is once we move a unit, I cannot go into charging mode then. It has to be done from the off at the start of that turn, if you like. And we cannot be disordered. We can't have a disordered unit that we want to commence a charge with. So these guys, I'm going to go back to them, charging. And try and charge this square. So as you can see, very, very good defense square against cavalry. We came off a lot worse. We lost 41 men and riders, and they lost 7. Excuse me. We'll have a go with the Emperor's Dragoons against this formation in column. They're C quality, so chances are we will do a little bit better on this one. And they're heavy troops. These are the better troops, if you like, to charge and go again and fight infantry, certainly in column and line. We'll change them to these guys to charging. There we go. Okay, we lost quite a few. However, they also did as well, and it caused us to push them back 1 hex. Now, as you can see, we become disordered. It was a messy business charging. Everybody got sort of messed up and muddled up, and horses and riders became entangled, people fell off, etc. It says we can continue this charge. If we do, though, we will be at a reduced rate, certainly because we are disordered, but because we sort of blew our horses, we took about a bit of steam out of them as well, it's not going to be as effective as that first charge. We can do this up to 3 times, so we'll try again by selecting them, right clicking and having a look. Okay, and see the 3rd time again, so we'll try it 1 further time. There we go, so we took quite a few of them. It was, believe it or not, less effective each time. I always like to think that if we were to start a charge from a few hexes away, it will give us a bonus. Just because in real life, not many units had the ability to insta-charge from a few meters away. They needed to get into a trot, into a canter, and then go full steam. Finally on the charge, if you like. There were cases where certain units, Kellerman for example, he mastered a technique, if you like, where he could charge or get everybody into formation to charge in a relatively short space, but it certainly wasn't the norm. I'd like to think you got a bonus for being able to charge from a few hexes away. I'd like to feel like it does, but I'm not sure for certain. So guys, that covers the basics of cavalry, how to break them down into squadrons, and the various different types and how they sort of roam the battlefield and their roles. Be sure to check out the video for infantry, for leadership and artillery, and happy gaming.